In the heart of a busy city where skyscrapers touched the clouds and people rushed past one another without a second glance, there was a small Starbucks on Elm Street. It wasn't particularly unique, just another coffee shop with its usual crowd of office workers grabbing their morning caffeine fix or students buried in laptops and textbooks. But what made this place stand out, even if only to a few, was Mia. She was a young woman in her mid-20s who worked behind the counter, always, wearing a warm smile that seemed to brighten the room. Her kindness wasn't forced. It came naturally, as though she had been born to care for others. Mia wasn't living an easy life. Like many others in the city, she juggled 2 jobs just to keep a roof over her head and food on the table. Narring. The day, she served coffee at Starbucks, and by night she cleaned offices in a nearby building. Despite her exhausting schedule, she never let her struggles show while she was at work. To her customers, Mia was cheerful, attentive, and endlessly patient, even when someone changed their order 3 times or complained about their latte being too hot. What they didn't know was that beneath her calm exterior she carried the weight of financial worries and sleepless nights. Yet somehow she found joy in making others feel valued, even if it was just through a perfectly brewed cup of coffee. One chilly evening, as the sun dipped below the horizon and painted the sky in shades of orange and purple, Mia prepared to close up the store. The last few customers had already left, and the only sounds were the soft hum of the espresso machine shutting down and the occasional clink of cups as she wiped down the counters. As she finished tidying up, something outside caught her eye. Through the large glass window, she saw an elderly woman sitting alone on a bench across the street. The woman's frail figure was wrapped in a threadbare coat, and her face bore deep lines etched by years of hardship. Her hands trembled as they clutched a plastic bag containing what little belongings she owned. Mia paused for a moment, watching the woman from afar. There was something profoundly sad about the scene, a stark contrast to the bustling energy of the city around them. She couldn't shake the feeling that the woman needed help, but she hesitated, unsure of what to do. After all, Mia wasn't exactly in a position to offer much herself. Still, she couldn't ignore the pang of empathy tugging at her heart. As she turned back to the counter, she noticed the tray of leftover pastries sitting untouched near the display case. They were meant to be thrown away at the end of the day, perfectly good food destined for the trash because corporate policy forbade selling items past their freshness window. For a brief moment, Mia wrestled with her conscience. She knew the rules. No employee was allowed to take or give away unsold food. But looking at those sandwiches and muffins, then glancing back at the elderly woman shivering on the bench, the decision felt clear. How could she justify letting perfectly edible food go to waste when someone so clearly in need sat just steps away? Taking a deep breath, Mia carefully wrapped the items in paper napkins and placed them into a small brown bag. Her heart raced as she walked toward the door, half expecting someone to stop her. But no one did. Stepping outside, the cold air hit her cheeks, snapping her back to reality. She crossed the street and approached the woman cautiously, not wanting to startle her. "Excuse me," Mia said softly, holding out the bag. "I thought you might like these." The elderly woman looked up, surprise flickering in her weary eyes. For a moment, she simply stared at Mia, as if unsure whether to trust this stranger offering her food. Then, slowly, she reached out and accepted the bag, her trembling hands brushing against Mia's. Tears welled up in her eyes as she whispered, "Thank you." The gratitude in the woman's voice struck Mia deeply, filling her chest with a warmth that momentarily overshadowed her fears of getting into trouble. But before she could say anything more, the sound of a sharp voice cut through the quiet, evening air. "What do you think you're doing?" It was the store manager, his face flushed with anger as he marched out of the shop. He grabbed Mia by the arm and dragged her back inside, berating her loudly for breaking company policy. Customers lingering nearby turned to watch, some whispering among themselves, while others quickly averted their gaze, unwilling to get involved. Despite her attempts to explain that the food would have been thrown away anyway, the manager refused to listen. His tone grew harsher with each word, accusing Mia of theft and insubordination. Humiliated and overwhelmed, Mia felt tears sting her eyes as she realized the gravity of the situation. No matter how noble her intentions had been, the rules were absolute, and bending them, even for a good cause, wasn't tolerated. By the time the manager finished his tirade, Mia had been fired on the spot, her dreams of scraping together enough money to pay rent crumbling before her very eyes. As she gathered her things and stepped out of the store, defeated and heartbroken, Mia couldn't help but feel like the world had turned its back on her. She sat down on the curb, hugging her knees to her chest, trying to hold herself together. What was she supposed to do now? Had she done the wrong thing by helping someone in need? Unbeknownst to her, a man sitting quietly at a corner table inside the cafe had witnessed the entire exchange. He had watched Mia's act of kindness, followed by the harsh reprimand she received. And though he hadn't said a word during the ordeal, his mind was already racing with thoughts of how to make things right. This man, whose presence had gone unnoticed until now, was none other than Keanu Reeves, a name synonymous with humility and compassion both on and off screen. Little, why, did Mia know her story was far from over. As Mia sat on the curb outside the Starbucks, tears streaming down her face, she felt like the weight of the world was crushing her. The cold night air bit at her skin, but it was nothing compared to the icy grip of despair tightening around her heart. She replayed the events in her mind over and over again, the kindness she had tried to show, the anger of her manager, and the humiliating way she had been dismissed. Her hands trembled as she clutched her bag, filled with nothing more than a few personal belongings from her locker. How could something so small, a simple act of giving leftover food to someone in need, lead to such a devastating outcome? Across the street, the elderly woman who had received the food was still sitting on the bench, clutching the brown paper bag tightly against her chest. She looked up at Mia with a mixture of gratitude and sadness, as though she understood the price Mia had paid for her generosity. For a brief moment their eyes met, and Mia forced herself to smile weakly before looking away. She couldn't bear to see the pity in the woman's gaze. Instead, she stared blankly at the pavement, wondering what she would do next. With no job and barely any savings, the future seemed bleak. Unbeknownst to Mia, a man stepped out of the Starbucks just moments later. He walked slowly, his presence calm yet deliberate. It was Keanu Reeves, the Hollywood actor known not only for his roles in action-packed movies, but also for his quiet humility and genuine care for others. Earlier that evening, he had chosen this particular cafe as a quiet spot to relax after a long day of meetings. Sitting alone at a corner table, sipping coffee and observing the world around him, he had watched everything unfold without saying a word. At first, he hadn't intended to intervene. He rarely sought attention or inserted himself into other people's lives, but something about Mia's story struck a deep chord within him. Keanu approached Mia cautiously, not wanting to startle her. When he finally spoke, his voice was soft and reassuring. "Hey," he said gently. "Are you okay?" Startled, Mia looked up, her tear-streaked face reflecting confusion and disbelief. For a moment, she thought she might be imagining things. Surely someone like Keanu Reeves wouldn't notice someone like her, let alone stop to talk. But as her blurry vision focused, she realized he was real. Standing there, dressed casually in jeans and a leather jacket, he looked every bit the unassuming figure fans admired. Not flashy or pretentious, just kind. Mia wiped her cheeks with the back of her hand and managed a shaky nod. I'll be fine," she murmured, though her voice betrayed her uncertainty. Keanu crouched down beside her, bringing himself to her level. His expression was one of empathy, free of judgment or pity. "That was really brave what you did back there," he said sincerely. "Not many people would have taken that risk." His words caught Mia off guard. No one had ever called her actions brave before. They were simply things she felt compelled to do. Helping others came naturally to her, even when it meant sacrificing her own comfort. Encouraged by Keanu's warmth, Mia began to open up. She told him about her struggles, working long hours at multiple jobs, barely scraping together enough money to pay rent, and constantly feeling like she was fighting an uphill battle. Yet despite all of this, She found joy in making a difference, however small, in the lives of those around her. Whether it was offering a listening ear to a stressed-out customer or sharing a laugh with a coworker, these moments reminded her why she kept going. Giving food to the elderly woman had been no different. It was just another way of spreading kindness in a world that often felt cold and indifferent. Keanu listened intently, nodding occasionally as Mia spoke. There was no trace of impatience or distraction in his demeanor. He genuinely wanted to understand her perspective. As she finished speaking, he placed a comforting hand on her shoulder. "You remind me of someone special," he admitted with a faint smile. "Someone who always believed in doing the right thing even when it wasn't easy." Though he didn't elaborate, Mia sensed that his words carried personal significance. Perhaps he too had faced moments where choosing compassion over convenience came at a cost. Feeling emboldened by Keanu's encouragement, Mia asked hesitantly, "Do you think I did the wrong thing? Should I have just followed the rules?" Keanu shook his head firmly. "No," he replied without hesitation. "The rules are important, sure, but sometimes they forget the bigger picture. What you did tonight, that was humanity. That's what matters most." His conviction gave Mia a glimmer of hope, lifting some of the heaviness from her shoulders. For the first time since being fired, she allowed herself to believe that maybe, just maybe, her actions hadn't been entirely futile. Before parting ways, Keanu promised Mia that he would do something to help. Though he didn't reveal his plans, his tone left no room for doubt. He was serious. As he walked away, disappearing into the crowd, Mia sat there for a while longer, processing everything that had happened. The encounter with Keanu felt surreal, almost dreamlike, yet it had been undeniably real. In that short conversation, he had managed to reignite a spark of hope within her, a reminder that even in the darkest moments there were still good people willing to stand up for what was right. The following morning, Mia woke up feeling emotionally drained but slightly lighter than the night before. She scrolled through social media absent-mindedly, half expecting to see posts mocking her for losing her job over a few sandwiches. To her surprise, however, the opposite was true. Someone had filmed part of the incident outside the Starbucks and shared it online. The video quickly went viral, capturing the attention of thousands of viewers. Comments poured in, praising Mia's selflessness and criticizing the store's rigid policies. Many expressed outrage over how she had been treated, calling for accountability from the company. As the day progressed, news outlets picked up the story, amplifying its reach. Journalists reached out to Mia, asking for interviews, but she declined, unsure of how to navigate the sudden spotlight. Meanwhile, Keanu remained true to his word. Behind the scenes, he began making calls and pulling strings, determined to ensure that justice was served, not just for Mia, but for anyone else who might find themselves in a similar situation. Little did Mia know, his efforts were about to set off a chain reaction that would change not only her life, but also the way corporations viewed compassion and community responsibility. For now, though, Mia continued to take things one step at a time. She updated her resume, applied for new jobs, and leaned on friends for support during this challenging period. Despite the uncertainty ahead, she held on to the belief that kindness, no matter how small, always mattered. And somewhere deep inside, she hoped that her story might inspire others to follow their hearts, even when the odds seemed stacked against them. The days following the incident at Starbucks passed in a blur for Mia. She spent most of her time indoors, glued to her phone as notifications poured in from every direction. Friends and strangers alike flooded her social media accounts with messages of support. Some shared their own stories of struggling to make ends meet while staying kind-hearted, while others expressed outrage over how she had been treated. The viral video of her giving food to the elderly woman had sparked a wave of empathy across the internet, turning her into an unexpected symbol of compassion. Despite the overwhelming support, Mia couldn't shake the anxiety gnawing at her. Her rent was due soon, and without a steady income, she wasn't sure how she would manage. Applying for new jobs felt daunting. Would potential employers see her firing as a red flag? Would they believe her side of the story? These questions, swirled in her mind, keeping her awake at night. Still, she tried to stay positive. Every encouraging comment or message reminded her that there were good people out there who cared about doing what was right. Even if her future seemed uncertain, she clung to the hope that things would eventually work out. Meanwhile, Keanu Reeves was hard at work behind the scenes. After his conversation with Mia, he returned to his hotel room and began reaching out to influential contacts within the entertainment industry, philanthropy circles, and even corporate leadership teams. He knew that simply speaking up wouldn't be enough. Systemic change required action. His first call was to a close friend who worked as a journalist, asking them to dig deeper into Starbucks policies regarding leftover food. Were there other employees who had faced similar consequences for trying to help those in need? Keanu wanted answers. Word spread quickly among his network, and soon, Keanu's involvement became public knowledge. Reporters covering Mia's story highlighted his role, describing him not just as a bystander, but as someone actively working to address the injustice. Fans praised him for using his platform to stand up for ordinary people, reinforcing his reputation as one of Hollywood's most down-to-earth celebrities. Yet Keanu avoided the spotlight, refusing interviews and deflecting attention back to Mia and the broader issue at hand. "This isn't about me," he told anyone who asked. "It's about making sure we don't punish kindness." The next day, Keanu made a surprise visit to the same Starbucks where Mia had worked. This time, however, he didn't come alone. Accompanying him was a small film crew documenting his efforts for a charity project focused on food waste and homelessness. When he walked through the door, the atmosphere shifted instantly. Customers turned their heads, some whispering excitedly about seeing a celebrity in person, while others wondered why he was there. The manager, recognizing Keanu immediately, froze mid-sentence as he greeted a customer. His face flushed red, unsure whether to feel honored or nervous. Keanu wasted no time getting to the point. Standing near the counter, he addressed everyone in the cafe, employees, customers, and the visibly uneasy manager. In a calm yet firm voice, he recounted the events of the previous evening, describing how Mia had shown incredible courage by helping someone in need. "What happened here wasn't fair," he said, his words echoing through the quiet space. "We live in a world where perfectly good food gets thrown away every single day, while countless people go hungry. That's wrong. And punishing someone for trying to fix that? That's even worse." His speech resonated deeply with those present. Employees nodded in agreement, recalling times when they too had felt frustrated by the company's strict rules. Customers exchanged glances, murmuring their approval. One woman stood up and applauded, prompting others to join in until the entire cafe erupted in applause. For the first time since being fired, Mia's actions were framed not as a violation of policy, but as an act of humanity worth celebrating. The manager, standing awkwardly behind the counter, looked increasingly uncomfortable as Keanu continued. Turning his attention to the manager, Keanu softened his tone slightly but remained resolute. "I understand you have policies to follow," he said, "but policies should serve people, not hurt them. If your rules are causing harm instead of good, then maybe it's time to rethink them." He paused, letting his words sink in before adding, "Mia didn't deserve to lose her job for showing kindness. I'm here today to make sure that changes." With that, he handed the manager a check, a generous donation meant to cover all the lost food Mia had given away, along with instructions to reinstate her immediately. The crowd erupted in cheers once again, and several employees approached Keanu afterward to thank him personally. Some shared stories of their own struggles with the company's inflexible policies, grateful for his intervention. Others simply shook his hand, expressing admiration for his willingness to step in where it mattered most. As the film crew captured the moment, Keanu took a few moments to speak privately with the manager, urging him to advocate for policy changes at higher levels within the corporation. Though reluctant at first, the manager eventually agreed, realizing that resisting such pressure might damage the store's reputation further. News of Keanu's visit spread like wildfire. Within hours, footage of his impassioned speech appeared online, racking up millions of views. Social media platforms buzzed with reactions, ranging from heartfelt praise to calls for widespread reform in how businesses handled surplus food. Journalists wrote articles highlighting the incident as a turning point, questioning whether corporations prioritized profit over people. Activists seized the opportunity to push for legislation encouraging or even mandating businesses to donate unused food to shelters and charities, rather than throwing it away. For Mia, watching these developments unfold from home was surreal. She hadn't expected Keanu to take such bold steps on her behalf, let alone inspire a national conversation about kindness and corporate responsibility. When reporters finally reached her for comment, she spoke candidly about her experience, emphasizing that she never intended to become a symbol of anything. She simply wanted to help someone in need. "If my story can encourage others to be kind, even when it's hard, then maybe something good can come out of this," she said during one interview. As the days turned into weeks, tangible changes began to take shape. The local Starbucks branch implemented a pilot program allowing employees to donate unsold food to nearby shelters under specific guidelines. Other stores in the area followed suit, inspired by the positive response from both staff and customers. Corporate headquarters issued a statement acknowledging the concerns raised and pledged to review its policies nationwide. While progress was slow, the momentum generated by Mia's story and Keanu's advocacy ensured that the conversation wouldn't fade anytime soon. Amidst all the chaos, Mia received an official letter from the company offering her old job back, along with an apology for how she had been treated. Though tempted to decline, she ultimately accepted, knowing that returning could send a powerful message. Compassion shouldn't cost someone their livelihood. On her first day back, co-workers greeted her warmly, many thanking her for inspiring them to think differently about their roles. Customers stopped by specifically to meet her, sharing how her story had touched their lives. For the first time in a long while, Mia felt a sense of purpose, not just as a barista but as someone capable of sparking meaningful change. Yet even as life settled into a new rhythm, Mia couldn't help but wonder what lay ahead. Keanu had planted a seed, not only in her heart but in the hearts of countless others who had followed her journey. What started as a simple act of kindness had grown into something far greater, a movement reminding everyone that humanity mattered more than rules, and that even in the darkest moments, light could shine through. Little did Mia know, her story was far from over. It was only the beginning. As the weeks passed, Mia settled back into her routine at Starbucks, but nothing felt quite the same. The store buzzed with a different energy now, an energy fueled by hope and determination. Employees worked together more closely, sharing ideas on how to improve their community impact. Customers lingered longer, not just for coffee, but to engage in conversations about kindness, generosity, and making a difference. What had once been a typical chain cafe had transformed into something more, a hub of inspiration where people came not only to grab a drink but to feel connected to something bigger than themselves. Mia, too, found herself changed. Though she was still the same warm-hearted person behind the counter, she carried a newfound confidence that stemmed from knowing her actions mattered. She no longer doubted whether it was worth taking risks for the sake of compassion. Instead, she embraced every opportunity to spread positivity. Whether it was offering a free refill to a struggling student or leaving encouraging notes on cups, Mia made sure her presence left a lasting impression. Her coworkers admired her spirit, often joking that she was the heart of the store, a title she humbly accepted. Keanu Reeves remained a quiet force in the background, checking in on Mia occasionally to see how things were going. He never sought recognition for his role in the story, preferring to let others take center stage. Still, his influence continued to ripple outward. Inspired by what he had witnessed, Keanu partnered with several organizations dedicated to reducing food waste and supporting vulnerable communities. Together, they launched campaigns aimed at educating businesses and individuals about the importance of donating surplus food rather than discarding it. These initiatives gained traction quickly, drawing attention from major corporations eager to align themselves with meaningful causes. One day, while tidying up after the morning rush, Mia received an unexpected email. It was from a non-profit group called Food for All, inviting her to speak at their annual conference. At first she thought it must be a mistake. Why would anyone want to hear from someone like her? But as she read through the message again, she realized they weren't asking because of her fame or connections. They wanted her perspective as someone who had experienced firsthand the challenges of balancing policy and humanity. The invitation came with a note thanking her for sparking a national dialogue and expressing hope that her story could inspire others to act. Nervous but intrigued, Mia accepted the offer. Preparing for the event proved daunting. Public speaking wasn't something she had ever done before, and the thought of standing in front of hundreds of people terrified her. Yet as she drafted her speech, she found comfort in focusing on the core of her message. Kindness is powerful, even when it seems small. She wrote about the elderly woman on the bench, the fear she felt facing her manager, and the moment Keanu approached her with words of encouragement. By the time she finished, her speech wasn't just a recounting of events, it was a call to action, urging everyone to look beyond rules and prioritize empathy. On the day of the conference, Mia arrived early, clutching her notes tightly as she navigated the bustling venue. The room where she was scheduled to speak was filled with attendees from all walks of life: business leaders, activists, students, and volunteers. As she took her place on stage, the audience erupted in applause, cheering not just for her courage, but for the values she represented. For a moment, Mia froze, overwhelmed by the sheer number of people looking up at her. Then, remembering Keanu's advice to focus on authenticity, she took a deep breath and began. Her voice trembled at first, but as she spoke, it grew steadier. She shared her story honestly, holding nothing back, not the struggles, not the fear, and certainly not the lessons she had learned along the way. When she recounted the night she gave food to the elderly woman, many in the audience wiped away tears. By the time she reached the part about Keanu stepping in, the room was buzzing with admiration. Mia ended her speech with a simple yet powerful statement. Kindness doesn't require permission. Sometimes it asks us to break the rules, not because we want to cause trouble, but because we believe in doing what's right. The response was overwhelming. Attendees lined up to thank Mia personally, sharing how her words had moved them to reconsider their own choices. Some promised to advocate for policy changes within their companies, while others vowed to start smaller acts of kindness in their daily lives. One woman handed Mia a business card, introducing herself as the founder of a local shelter and inviting her to visit anytime. Another man offered to mentor her if she ever decided to pursue public speaking full-time. For the first time, Mia realized her story wasn't just about her. It was about creating a ripple effect that could touch countless lives. Back at work, Mia noticed subtle shifts happening around her. Other Starbucks locations across the city began adopting similar donation programs, inspired by the success of her store's pilot initiative. Employees exchanged tips on how to handle difficult situations without compromising compassion. Even customers got involved, bringing in canned goods or clothing donations to leave at the counter for distribution to nearby shelters. Slowly, but surely, the culture of giving became ingrained in the fabric of the community. Keanu, true to his nature, stayed quietly involved, ensuring that momentum didn't fade. He attended charity events under the radar, using his presence to draw attention to lesser-known organizations doing incredible work. On one occasion, he surprised Mia by showing up unannounced at a volunteer event she was coordinating at a local soup kitchen. Without fanfare, he rolled up his sleeves and joined in, serving meals alongside her and other volunteers. His humility struck everyone who saw him there. He treated the experience not as a photo op but as an opportunity to contribute meaningfully. Through these experiences, Mia discovered a passion she hadn't known she possessed: advocacy. Encouraged by the support she received, she started documenting her journey on social media, sharing updates about the progress being made in her community. Her posts resonated with followers worldwide, prompting messages from people in different countries who wanted to replicate her efforts locally. Before long, Mia found herself collaborating with international groups, helping them design strategies to combat food waste and homelessness. Each new connection reminded her that kindness transcended borders. It was a universal language spoken by hearts everywhere. Despite her growing influence, Mia remained grounded. She refused sponsorships or partnerships that might dilute her message, choosing instead to focus on grassroots efforts that directly impacted those in need. Her commitment earned her respect not only from peers, but also from industry leaders, who began consulting her on corporate responsibility initiatives. Companies once criticized for wasteful practices now sought her input on how to implement sustainable solutions responsibly. As months turned into a year, Mia reflected on how much had changed since that fateful evening outside Starbucks. What started as a single act of kindness had blossomed into a movement that touched thousands of lives. And while she knew there was still so much work to be done, she felt hopeful. Hopeful that more people would choose compassion over convenience. Hopeful that policies would evolve to reflect human values. Most importantly, hopeful that stories like hers would remind everyone that even the smallest gestures could spark monumental change. Though her journey was far from over, Mia understood one thing clearly. Kindness wasn't just an action, it was a mindset. A mindset that, when embraced collectively, had the power to transform the world. And as she stood, behind the counter at Starbucks, smiling warmly at the next customer in line, she knew she was exactly where she was meant to be. As the months rolled on, Mia's life continued to evolve in ways she could never have imagined. The ripple effects of her story reached far beyond her small corner of the city, inspiring people from all walks of life to rethink their roles in creating a kinder, more compassionate world. What had started as an act of quiet generosity toward one elderly woman had grown into something much larger, a movement that reminded everyone of the power of empathy and action. Yet despite the growing recognition and opportunities coming her way, Mia remained steadfast in staying true to herself. One day, while scrolling through social media during a rare break at work, Mia stumbled upon a post that stopped her in her tracks. It was a photo of a young barista from another Starbucks location, standing proudly beside a sign that read, "Leftover Food Donations Program, Helping Our Community." Beneath the picture, the caption explained how the store had implemented its own version of the initiative inspired by Mia's story. The comment section was flooded with praise, not only for the store but also for Mia, whose name had become synonymous with courage and compassion. Reading through the heartfelt messages, Mia felt a lump form in her throat. She hadn't realized just how deeply her actions had resonated with others, or how many lives they had touched. Encouraged by the positive feedback, Mia decided to take things a step further. With help from Keanu and several nonprofit organizations he introduced her to, she launched a campaign called Kindness Without Limits. The goal was simple: to encourage businesses, schools, and individuals to find creative ways to support their communities without letting fear or rigid rules hold them back. Posters, flyers, and videos were created, featuring real stories of people who had made a difference despite facing challenges. Mia even recorded a short video message, urging viewers to start small, whether it was donating unused items, volunteering time, or simply offering a listening ear to someone in need. The campaign quickly gained traction, spreading across social media platforms like wildfire. People began sharing their own acts of kindness under the hashtag #KindnessWithoutLimits, creating a virtual tapestry of hope and connection. Some posted photos of food drives they organized, while others shared stories of helping strangers in unexpected ways. A teacher in Texas wrote about starting a free breakfast program for students who arrived at school hungry. A teenager in Canada described setting up a community fridge stocked with donated groceries. Each story added fuel to the fire, proving that kindness wasn't limited by age, geography, or circumstance. It was universal. Meanwhile, Keanu continued to play a vital role in amplifying Mia's efforts. Though he preferred to stay out of the spotlight, he used his resources and influence to ensure the campaign reached as many people as possible. He arranged for interviews with major news outlets, carefully steering conversations toward the importance of systemic change rather than focusing solely on individual heroics. During one televised appearance, he emphasized that true progress required collaboration, not just between corporations and charities, but also among everyday citizens willing to step up and make a difference. Keanu's dedication didn't go unnoticed. Fans praised him for using his platform to uplift others, reinforcing his reputation as a genuine advocate for humanity. But Keanu brushed off the compliments, redirecting attention to Mia and the countless unsung heroes working tirelessly behind the scenes. "I'm just here to remind people that we're all capable of making a difference," he said during an interview. Mia showed us that sometimes it's the smallest gestures that have the biggest impact. For Mia, seeing her vision come to life was both exhilarating and humbling. She often found herself reflecting on how far she'd come, from being a struggling barista worried about paying rent to becoming a symbol of hope for thousands. Yet no matter how much recognition she received, she never lost sight of what truly mattered, making a tangible difference in the lives of those around her. Every morning, she woke up determined to live by example, knowing that her actions spoke louder than any words ever could. Her renewed sense of purpose extended beyond her advocacy work. At Starbucks, Mia became a mentor to newer employees, teaching them not just the technical aspects of the job, but also the importance of treating every customer with respect and care. She encouraged her coworkers to look for opportunities to brighten someone's day, whether it was remembering a regular's favorite drink or offering a kind word to someone having a tough morning. Her enthusiasm was contagious, fostering a workplace culture rooted in kindness and teamwork. Outside of work, Mia threw herself into volunteering, dedicating weekends to local shelters and community centers. She formed close bonds with the people she met there, learning their stories and understanding the unique challenges they faced. One person who left a lasting impression on her was a single mother named Clara, who worked multiple jobs to provide for her 2 young children. Despite her exhausting schedule, Clara always greeted Mia with a smile, expressing gratitude for the meals and clothes donations that helped ease her burden. Inspired by Clara's resilience, Mia started organizing workshops to teach practical skills like budgeting, resume writing, and stress management, empowering others to build better futures for themselves. As word of these initiatives spread, Mia attracted the attention of local leaders eager to support her efforts. City officials reached out, asking for advice on implementing programs to address food insecurity and homelessness. Schools invited her to speak at assemblies, hoping to instill values of compassion and service in the next generation. Even corporate executives attended her talks, seeking guidance on embedding kindness into their company cultures. Through it all, Mia stayed humble, reminding everyone that she was just one person doing her best to make the world a little brighter. Despite the whirlwind of activity, Mia made time to check in with Keanu regularly. Their friendship had blossomed into a partnership built on mutual respect and shared goals. They often discussed new ideas for expanding the reach of kindness without limits, brainstorming ways to involve more industries and demographics. On one occasion, Keanu surprised Mia by arranging a meeting with a major grocery chain interested in launching a nationwide food donation program. Sitting across from executives in a sleek conference room, Mia couldn't help but marvel at how far she'd come since that cold night outside Starbucks. Yet, amidst all the excitement, Mia never forgot the elderly woman who had unknowingly set everything in motion. Whenever she passed the bench where the woman had sat, she paused for a moment, silently thanking her for being part of this journey. Though she hadn't seen the woman again, Mia liked to imagine her somewhere warm and safe, perhaps enjoying a meal provided by one of the shelters Mia now supported. In her mind, the woman represented not just an individual in need, but a reminder of why kindness mattered so deeply. By the end of the year, Mia's impact was undeniable. Cities across the country reported significant reductions in food waste thanks to donation programs modeled after her original idea. Schools incorporated lessons on empathy and service into their curriculums. Corporations rewrote policies to prioritize community well-being over profit margins, and countless individuals credited Mia's story with inspiring them to take action in their own lives. Yet for Mia, the greatest reward wasn't the accolades or statistics. It was the knowledge that she had sparked a chain reaction of goodness that would continue long after she was gone. As she stood behind the counter at Starbucks one chilly December evening, Wrapping up another busy shift, Mia allowed herself a rare moment of reflection. The store was quieter than usual, bathed in the soft glow of holiday lights strung along the walls. Outside, snowflakes drifted lazily to the ground, blanketing the city in a serene stillness. For the first time in a long while, Mia felt at peace. She knew there would always be challenges ahead, rules to challenge, hearts to win over, and battles to fight. But she also knew she wasn't alone. Thousands of people had joined her cause, each contributing their own piece to the puzzle of a kinder, more compassionate world. And so, as she locked up the store and headed home, Mia smiled to herself, feeling grateful for the twists and turns that had brought her here. What had once seemed like an ordinary life had transformed into something extraordinary, not because of fame or fortune, but because of the simple belief that kindness, no matter how small, could change the world. As the new year began, Mia found herself reflecting on how much her life had transformed over the past 12 months. What had started as a single act of kindness toward an elderly woman had grown into a movement that touched lives far beyond her imagination. Yet, despite the accolades and attention, Mia remained grounded, focusing not on what she had achieved, but on what still needed to be done. She knew that true change required patience, persistence, and a willingness to keep pushing forward, even when progress felt slow. One crisp January morning, Mia received an email that stopped her in her tracks. It was from a prestigious humanitarian organization inviting her to attend their annual gala as a guest of honor. The invitation came with a note praising her efforts to combat food waste and homelessness, calling her a beacon of hope for communities worldwide. At first, Mia hesitated. She wasn't used to walking red carpets or sitting among celebrities, but something about the message resonated deeply. This wasn't just about her. It was about shining a light on the issues she cared about and inspiring others to join the cause. When the night of the gala arrived, Mia dressed carefully, choosing a simple yet elegant outfit that reflected her personality. As she stepped onto the venue's grand staircase, she felt a mix of excitement and nerves. Cameras flashed, capturing her every move, while reporters shouted questions about her journey and future plans. For a moment, she felt overwhelmed by the attention. But then she remembered Keanu's advice. Stay authentic. Taking a deep breath, she smiled warmly and waved, letting her genuine gratitude shine through. Inside the ballroom, the atmosphere buzzed with energy. Tables were adorned with sparkling centerpieces, and the air was filled with lively chatter. As Mia made her way to her seat, she noticed familiar faces scattered throughout the crowd. Activists, philanthropists, and even a few celebrities who had followed her story online. When her name was called during the award ceremony, she stood up, her heart pounding as the room erupted in applause. Accepting the award, Mia delivered a heartfelt speech, thanking everyone who had supported her along the way and urging them to continue fighting for a kinder, more compassionate world. The gala marked a turning point for Mia. In the weeks that followed, opportunities poured in, from speaking engagements at universities to partnerships with global brands eager to align themselves with her mission. Yet no matter how busy her schedule became, Mia always prioritized staying connected to the people who mattered most, those directly affected by the issues she championed. She continued volunteering at shelters, organizing workshops, and mentoring young advocates passionate about making a difference. Her commitment to grassroots efforts reminded everyone around her that real change happened not in boardrooms, but in neighborhoods, streets, and homes. Keanu, too, remained a steadfast ally, quietly supporting Mia's endeavors behind the scenes. Though his involvement often went unnoticed, his impact was undeniable. He introduced Mia to influential figures in industries ranging from technology to entertainment, helping her expand the reach of caring kindness without limits. Together, they launched initiatives aimed at tackling systemic problems like poverty, inequality, and climate change. One project in particular gained widespread attention: a mobile app designed to connect surplus food from restaurants and grocery stores with local shelters and food banks. Developed with input from tech experts and community leaders, The app quickly became a game changer, reducing waste while feeding thousands of hungry families. Despite the growing success of her campaigns, Mia never lost sight of the importance of personal connection. She believed that kindness thrived not in grand gestures but in everyday moments, the smile shared between strangers, the warm meal offered to someone in need, the listening ear extended to a friend. To remind herself of this truth, she kept a journal where she documented small acts of kindness she witnessed or experienced each day. Some entries were simple, like a barista remembering a customer's order, while others were profound, like a family opening their home to a neighbor facing eviction. Each story reinforced her belief that compassion, though often quiet, was incredibly powerful. By spring, Mia's influence had reached international shores. Communities in Europe, Asia, and Africa embraced the principles of kindness without limits, adapting them to fit their unique needs and cultures. A school in Kenya started a garden program to teach students sustainable farming practices while providing fresh produce for nearby villages. A cafe in Japan implemented a pay-it-forward system, allowing customers to purchase meals for strangers experiencing hardship. Even governments took notice, passing legislation to encourage businesses to donate unsold goods rather than discard them. Everywhere Mia looked, she saw evidence of a global shift, a collective awakening to the power of empathy and action. Yet, amidst all the progress, challenges persisted. Not everyone agreed with Mia's approach, and some criticized her for being too idealistic. Skeptics argued that systemic issues required more than goodwill. They demanded policy changes, economic reforms, and structural overhauls. While Mia acknowledged the validity of these concerns, she refused to let negativity deter her. Instead, she used criticism as fuel, doubling down on her efforts to bridge gaps between grassroots movements and institutional reform. By fostering dialogue between activists, policymakers, and corporate leaders, she helped create solutions that balanced compassion with practicality. As summer approached, Mia decided to take a step back and focus on self-care. The past year had been emotionally taxing, and she recognized the importance of recharging before diving into new projects. With Keanu's encouragement, she planned a short trip to a quiet coastal town, hoping to find solace in nature. During her time away, she spent hours walking along the beach, watching waves crash against the shore and journaling about her dreams for the future. It was during one of these reflective moments that an idea struck her, an idea that would become her next big venture. Returning home refreshed and inspired, Mia announced the launch of a nonprofit organization dedicated to empowering individuals and communities to drive positive change. Named Ripple Effect, the organization focused on three core pillars: education, advocacy, and collaboration. Through workshops, mentorship programs, and resource-sharing platforms, Ripple Effect aimed to equip people with the tools and knowledge needed to tackle social issues head-on. The initiative quickly gained traction, attracting volunteers, donors, and partners eager to contribute to its mission. In the years that followed, Mia's legacy continued to grow. Her story inspired countless books, documentaries, and films exploring themes of kindness, resilience, and community empowerment. Schools adopted curriculums based on her teachings, encouraging students to think critically about their roles in shaping a better world. Corporations rewrote policies to prioritize sustainability and social responsibility, crediting Mia's advocacy for sparking meaningful change. And perhaps most importantly, individuals everywhere embraced the belief that even the smallest acts of kindness could create ripples capable of transforming entire societies. Though Mia eventually stepped away from the spotlight, choosing instead to live a quieter life focused on family and close friends, her impact endured. People around the globe carried her message forward, ensuring that the spirit of kindness without limits lived on. From bustling cities to remote villages, stories of compassion and courage emerged daily, proving that humanity's capacity for good was limitless. And so, as Mia sat on her porch one evening, sipping tea and watching the sunset paint the sky in hues of orange and pink, she felt a deep sense of fulfillment. She had started with nothing more than a desire to help someone in need, unaware of the journey it would set in motion. Now looking back, she realized that her greatest achievement wasn't the awards or recognition. It was knowing that she had played a part in reminding the world of something essential. Kindness, though often overlooked, was the thread that bound us all together.